Hey, Tito, Jeff Thitoff here. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Buckeye Blitz on Fan Streaming Sports, powered by DSP Media. We're getting closer, folks. August 23rd is when you'll have the first wave of Saturday games of college football. There's only 4 games, but still, that's when things get going. August 30th for Ohio State, Texas. NFL creeping up on us, too. July 31st is going to be the Hall of Fame game. So football's in the air. We are just a little more than a month out before we get some NFL football, and then that'll lead right into college. You can follow us. You can download the app. Let's do that first. Free for Apple and Android users. Websites, fanstreamsports.com. We've got all kinds of new programming always coming into play here. And if you download the app, it's free. Download the free app, and you can get access to all of our stuff right there at your fingertips anytime you want to listen to our many, many podcasts that are doing great numbers and getting better and better each day. So Jim Tressel was speaking the other day on the radio, doing an interview here in Columbus. And he said something I thought was pretty interesting, that the last 3 Ohio State championship seasons, national championship seasons, was 0-2 with him, 14 with Urban, and then with Ryan Day this past season, have all come with overcoming adversity and overcoming difficult situations. If you remember when Tressel got here, his first year, the 0-1 season, wasn't a great year. It was an okay year. Wasn't great at all. But he was following on John Cooper in that. And so, they had a couple of tough losses there that first year. But so they had to overcome that leading into 0-2. In 0-2, they certainly had their share of adversity with some of the off-the-field stuff that was going on. Also, very, very close games throughout the season. You remember the Cincinnati game was one that was very close. The Northwestern game, games like that. Leading into the Michigan game also. I know there's some I'm missing, but Penn State, there's no one. But lots of close games throughout that season, and it culminated with the Miami game with what they were able to do in that one. So that team overcame some adversity there. The 14 team with Urban Meyer, that was Urban Meyer's second team, if you remember. They had the interim coach Luke Fickell for one season after Tressel, and they had a not great season. They self-imposed a postseason ban the following season, Urban's first, in which the Buckeyes went undefeated. So now they go into Urban's second season, coming off an undefeated season, but they could not play in a bowl game because of their self-imposed sanction based on the tattoo gate and everything. And they lose that game. They lose to Virginia Tech in that season, and able to overcome that and still make it into the BCS, the 14 playoff, and where they beat Alabama and then Oregon for the championship. So they had to overcome some adversity there, lost to Virginia Tech, and able to rally behind that and end up winning the whole thing. And then this past season, Ohio State, tough loss to Oregon on the road. Not an ugly loss, but a tough loss nonetheless that happened. And then they lose to Michigan, and at that point, a lot of Ohio State fans wanted, I say fans, it's in air quotes, because I don't know if, I was in the corner of let the playoff play out. Let's see what happens there. A lot of people wanted him fired after the Michigan game, put in Hartline as an interim coach, see what he can do. And I was never in favor of that. And look what they did in the playoff, winning the games they did. Tennessee, Oregon, Texas, and Notre Dame win the whole thing. So, and it's interesting, every team had to overcome some kind of adversity there. And I wonder now, will Ryan Day get more benefit of the doubt with some of the should we say crazy Buckeye fans, because after what he showed last year, a 2-loss team, still made the playoffs, won the whole damn thing. Even though they lost to Michigan, won the whole damn thing. And so my hope is there'll be patience with Ryan Day if there is adversity, if there's a hiccup somewhere. Tressel brought that up too, that, when you find, this is absolutely true, that anymore, if you get rid of a coach for some reason, the head coach in college football, especially an elite program like Ohio State, there are so many different layers to it that you've got to consider. If you fire head coach, and they're not going to fire Ryan Day now, I don't see it happening. I don't know if they'll fire Ryan Day. But when you fire a head coach, you're going to have, first of all, you can lose some of your staff. You're going to lose some people that'll transfer right off the bat that were big fans of that coach. You're also going to lose some recruits that committed to your program, that now they will probably say, Ohio State had it last year. Look at Alabama. When Saban stepped down, that's how Ohio State got Caleb Downs. So all those things happen. You also might lose some of the support of the alumni base, some of the NIL money coming in, if you have people there that were big fans of the previous coach. So it can really set your program back significantly if you make a bad coaching hire or a knee-jerk reaction. And I'm thankful Ohio State hasn't done that yet. Ross Bjork has done a great job as the AD at Ohio State since he came on board. And it's just, I don't, this isn't the only argument to make, but who you gets it better. Ryan Day's had a fantastic record now, and I believe every year Ohio State will be in the CFP, and we'll see what happens. They're not going defeated every year. They didn't go defeated last year. As a matter of fact, I think last year's championship was more important, more significant, let's use that word, more significant, more impressive than if they had gone undefeated. I know an undefeated season is an amazing thing, but the fact that Ohio State was able to overcome what they did, where they were at after the loss to Michigan, and rally and dominate through the college football playoffs, I think says a lot about the culture. Another thing you have to think about if you make a coaching change. But I think it was more meaningful that Ohio State won the championship the way they did. So anyway, interesting development in college football meetings. They did not come to a conclusion on how they're going to do the playoff going forward. They simply said they're going to table it for now, but there's all kinds of discussions going on. The 4-4, 2-2-1, the 5-11, different ways they're going to figure out automatic bids and whatnot. But there was nothing decided yet. But they will go to a 16-team playoff. I don't think they're going to go to 14 first in 2026-27 season. I don't think they're going to go to a 14. They go straight to 16. And they're going to seed the top four as the top four, and that's fine. But if you go to a 16, then you do the top 8, get buys, or don't get buys, sorry, get home field advantage in that first round, and you kind of go from there. I hope they do that. I hope they play the first 2 rounds on campus sites and then branch out to the bowls, but we'll see what happens with that. Another significant thing, though, from the CFP is the injury report. And now in the CFP, you're going to have to provide an injury report on your team, a la what the NFL does. And you have to have every CFP team playing has got to provide an injury report. That's mandatory for them to do that. It makes sense with the world of betting, and we know that betting rules the NFL and betting rules football in general. People want to know that information. They don't want to have things that, when they're going to place a wager, don't want to have things they don't know about, the injury status, who's starting what position. So CFP, the committee when they met, that's one of the things they did discuss and said that is going to be mandatory going forward. There's also talk about the transfer portal changing. Now, Ohio State and Notre Dame last year were at a huge disadvantage because the portal was open while they were still playing. And so some guys, there was, the Penn State's backup quarterback left while they were still playing. That happens. But the portal, though, was open and then it closed while Ohio State and Notre Dame are both still playing. Now, after the season ends, they'll back up again for the schools that were still playing when it opened up. But Ross Bjork from Ohio State talked about how he wants one portal window and happen in the spring. Happen maybe after spring practice, after all that. That's when you can decide if you're going to transfer or not. But that's the only time, and that way everybody's at the same time frame. There's other people though that want to just have one in January and that's it. And that's going to be disadvantageous to the schools that are doing really well and keep playing. It's tough because, on one hand, you've got these teams playing. They're still trying to win playoff games, extend their season, have success. And they also have to worry about the portal. And you might have some players, key backups maybe, like the Penn State thing, move on during that time frame. And that's why I wish they'd do it one time in the spring. I like what Ross Bjork said about this, but there are people, though, that think one in January is all you have to do. Here's a quote from Ryan Day back in February talking to the Joe Klatt show. He said, "If we didn't have that second transfer portal window, it's very, very difficult. We're trying to make decisions about next year, yet our year isn't even done yet. So that affects your current roster. It's just messy. I think you had to have 2 portals unless you're finishing the season sooner." So because there's a spring one and a winter one, and Day at least wants to have one, after the season ends. And I hope that's the way they go with this because it makes a lot more sense. Like I say, teams that are doing well will have a disadvantage with the portal. Ohio State got their first commit for the 2028 class for Ryan Day. They offered and accepted an offer, Elijah Hall, who was from Tampa, Florida. Tampa Blake is the name of the high school he goes to, Blake High School. He's a 2028 running back. He's 5'11", 195. And Carlos Lachlan offered him a scholarship back in the early part of May. He rushed for class 28. That means that he just finished his freshman year going into his sophomore year. But he had 900 yards almost as a freshman, just under 900, and 5'11", 195. So Day's got that commit. Although I still say that that the recruiting is less important now just because of the impact of the transfer portal. I still think it's great press. It is a big boost if you can have the number 1, number 2, number 3 class, whatever, get the number 1 recruit, number 2 recruit. They're all great things. Even like this kid now, Hall, he's committed to Ohio State. He's not locked in. He can always, people are still going to recruit him. He can still take visits, which I assume he will. He's only just, like I say, just finished freshman year. So he'll still take visits. But it's good publicity for Ohio State that they were able to get him. That's a good thing. You now got the class 2028. And when people look at different rankings of recruiting classes, I know that nothing's official yet with this kid, but still, he's a damn good running back that Ohio State was able to get. One other thing I want to talk about, too, with college football. University of Wisconsin filed a lawsuit against Miami of Florida, the U, over Xavier Lucas, a defensive back for Wisconsin who played this past season. So Xavier Lucas wanted to get in the transfer portal, but he missed the deadline when you could tell the school. You tell the school, I want to be put in the transfer portal, the school puts you in there. So he wanted to get in, but he was late on the deadline as far as when you had to say you were going to be in the transfer portal. So Wisconsin denied him. He had also just signed a revenue sharing agreement. So they said, no, we're not letting you go in the portal. You're here. You signed a deal. You're here. And it's past the deadline. So what he decided to do was he unenrolled. He left Wisconsin on his own and enrolled at Miami. Didn't go through the transfer portal, just did it on his own. He left school, unenrolled, and then enrolled at Miami is what he did. So you're going to see more and more things like this as they're still trying to figure out what the penalties should be, how kids are held accountable when they sign contracts. What if you miss a transfer portal date? I think he said that there was an issue with a family member being sick or going through some things. That's why he didn't get a name in time. Wisconsin was playing hardball, but now they are accusing Miami of tampering and the fact that he's doing that. I think you're going to see more and more of these types of things. We are still in uncharted waters, and there are things you can't account for. There are things you don't account for, I should say. And I don't know if this was something that ever came up. Like, what if a kid, we call them student athletes, what if this student decides to go somewhere else on his own and just go enroll in that school? And Wisconsin's trying to say, no, you signed this deal, you got to be here. So we will see how that plays out, but that's one of the things they have to kind of account for when they're talking about the different rules with college football, the NIL, house settlement, all those different things going on. They've got to figure out how things are going to happen and what different punishments are going to be. I personally think if somebody transfers on their own like that, goes into the portal, enrolls somewhere else, I feel like the penalty should be you got to pay back any money you got and also sit out a year. I think that should be the rule. And I don't think it'll be quite that harsh, but I think you should have to pay back the money you received and then also like I say, sit out for 1 year. That would make you really think about whether you want to do this or not, or wait a year and then try to enter the portal at the right time that way. One final note. This is related to a former Buckeye player, Josh Simmons. Remember him? Injured his leg against Oregon last year in the regular season, and the patellar tendon's what he ended up injuring, and so it looked like he'd be out for quite a while. He missed the rest of the season, obviously, but there was talk about maybe he wouldn't even be ready to start the NFL season. Chiefs took him, the offensive lineman Simmons, with the last pick in the first round, and it looks like he's going to be ready to go for training camp. Andy Reid said he's doing everything, and he's going to be full go. No limitations at all when camp starts up for Kansas City. That's good news. It'll end up being another great pick for Kansas City. They're doing what they do. They're finding gold at the end of rounds, and they keep transforming these guys. Simmons, if it wasn't for the injury, he probably would have been a top 10 pick. But the Chiefs get him on the cheap because of the injury, and now things are looking good for him. All right, that's it for the Buckeye Blitz. Follow me on Twitter @ThatHappens, and we'll get another one out here soon for you guys on the Buckeye Blitz, but there's a lot going on. Fans Street Sports, DSP Media powers that, and download the free app. Apple and Android users, look for Fans Street Sports, download it, get all of our shows. They're right there for you for free. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll talk again. Go Bucks.